Hi, Chris. How are you?
Happy Labor Day to you. Nice to be chatting with you. Thanks.
It's nice to have you here. So you're sharing songs and stories as part of your tour, and you brought in a couple of songs that mean a lot to you, and we're going to listen to them today.
Yeah, I've been across the country literally thousands of times and seeing the whole country in a matter of 8 minutes, coast to coast. I've driven across it, but seeing the whole thing from Vancouver to St. John's in 8 or 9 minutes, right up to the Arctic Circle. Wow. You get a sense of the age of it and the transient nature of some of our concerns, but the beauty of it. And so it's a really interesting thing to put together a talk about, sing some music about, show a bunch of images of. And I've had a chance to give the show out in the West a little bit, but I got 4 shows coming up in September. I'm looking forward to every one kicking off in Thunder Bay in a couple weeks.
I can't wait. So let's listen to some music that has meant something to you over the years. Let's start off with Gordon Lightfoot. This is If You Could Read My Mind.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost from a wishing well, in a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains.
Just when those strings come in.
Oh, yeah.
You know that
Gordon Lightfoot and If You Could Read My Mind. Chris, when did you first hear that?
When it first came on the radio, I grew up on a farm and had radio on the bus, and so every day I got 2 or 3 hours of radio because I was the first on the bus and last off. And listening to that, I was like, wow, I didn't know music could be like that. And when you're playing pinball, and sometimes the ball does something really interesting. It doesn't just come down the middle, but it does a weird bouncing pattern. To me, that's what the lyrics are like in that song, where he takes it to you're just going, wow, that's not what I was expecting this story to tell. And it's so sort of an agonized self-portrait, that song. But as you say, when those strings come in,
oh man,
oh gosh, it's so beautifully produced.
And you used to listen to this song on the job, right, to calm you down? Is that right?
Well, maybe the most significant time was on my 3rd space flight. When you're sitting waiting to launch, you're there on your back for a couple hours. This was in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, sitting in a Russian rocket as the pilot. And the doctors are, of course, hawking you to make sure you're all healthy. And one of my trainers said, well, how about if we play some nice, beautiful, soothing music that you love so your heart rate will be nice and slow and you'll be thinking good thoughts. And I asked him to play this song. So laying on my back in a Soyuz spaceship just half an hour before I left Earth, I was listening to this song.
Stunning, eh? I'm feeling that right now. I'm feeling the calm as we speak. It feels like I'm in Kazakhstan. How much of a role does music play in your career in space?
Well, music plays a huge role in my personal life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's how I explain the day to myself. It's how I try and understand the world around myself better. I have a song playing in my head, one by is playing in my head right now. I don't even know the name of it, but this song is just over and over and over again, and I just love that sort of is the theme of my thoughts and my expressions and my emotions of the day. So on a personal level, I think like a lot of people, music is really important. But when you're doing a really unusual thing, when you're having a very strange human experience, like living on board a space station, being one of the few people to have left Earth, how do you explain it to yourself, but how do you explain it to other people? How do you express that to other folks? And I'm not a painter, but try and take some images and let people see it with their eyes, but then try and play some music that helps get the feel of it right, way down deep, And we started with Bowie there. He guessed when he wrote Oddity back in 68, 69, what it might feel like, but somehow he guessed right.
Was he right?
He was right. The lyrics needed updating because we hadn't even been walking on the moon when he wrote that tune. But we updated the lyrics. He loved the update on the lyrics, but he was so, I think, pleased, but also really proud that something he'd written when he was 19 or 20, just in the last year of his life, to see it played in a place he'd always dreamed of going. And the beauty of it was he got it right. The feel was right. It helped explain it to a lot of people that otherwise would never get a feel for what being weightless on a spaceship is truly like.
Chris Hadfield is with me in studio right now. We're talking about some of his favorite Canadian songs and how they shaped his career as a former astronaut, as a musician. Your next song is Neil Young. Let's take a listen.
And I know she's living there
If anyone ever tells you that like music needs to be absolutely perfect and rehearsed all the time, let's play them that and tell them no, it doesn't. It can be loose and beautiful. That's Cortez the Killer.
I know, that just sounds like you're there in with him playing that song. Well, it's so hypnotic and such a sort of the relentless chord sequence, and the words are just unexpected. Again, you know that and Cortez the Killer. This is a way to end this tune, but that song, I first heard it around a campfire as a kid growing up, and it was one of those songs you go, wow, when this campfire is over, I got to go learn that song. I didn't know that existed. And
you spoke to Neil from space.
Yeah.
You spoke to Neil Young from space. I think whenever Neil Young's speaking to you, he's speaking from space.
Our psychiatrists and our psychologists try and keep us healthy in space, mentally healthy, because you're a long way away from home. And they set up a call for me with some Canadian musicians, and I said, well, gosh, could we talk to Neil Young? And going, well, maybe. Nothing, couldn't hear anything from him. One day, just towards the end of my flight, they got this email from Neil saying, hey, I'd like to talk to Chris. So they set it up, and then his internet broke down. He couldn't call from his house. So his people worked there, and they found the best internet he had in his whole house was in the back seat of his 59 Lincoln Hybrid, if you can believe it. He has a 59 Lincoln made into a hybrid, and it's got great internet. Right. So Neil climbed into the back seat of his 59 Lincoln and talked to me on board the spaceship. So we showed each other around. I showed him around my spaceship. He showed me around his Lincoln, and we sat and talked actually mostly about songwriting and what it means to us individually. And I had a great time chatting with Neil. It was such a delight.
I can only imagine he must have been blown away too to be able to see inside the space station.
Yeah, a kid from Winnipeg and a kid from a farm in Ontario, but God, he's such an original force of a musician, and I get nothing but respect. And it was a very entertaining and surreal half hour.
So I have this right now. So we all know you play the guitar, and you very famous videos of you playing the guitar on the International Space Station. They might not know you actually play the trombone as well. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is a bit of a band you got to watch record as a young man. What is this we're about to hear?
There's a band, Phil Nimmons, really great jazz musician from the city here. He had a band called Nimmons and Nine, and then they added a few other people. Then it became Nimmons and Nine plus Six. Through my music teacher, we got a chance to come in the studio while they were recording an album, and I got to watch them live record this tune.
Let's take a listen to this.
Trombones.
All trombones there, eh?
Got a little bass in it.
Oh yeah, I want to start a show where me and Chris Hadfield annotate songs. It's like radio pop-up video with Tom and Chris.
So my music teacher at the time was engaged to the lead trumpet player from this band. Right. And so she brought us in, and I'd never seen professional music being made before. And I think a lot of people view music as a finished product. Mm-hmm. And they forget, like in Cortez the Killer, it's this weird interactive process by which music gets made. And these folks are so skilled. I couldn't just listen to what they're doing there. I couldn't believe it. And for me, it was just a revelation to see how something like this gets built, the amount of talent, the patience, the professionalism, and the fun they were all having in the studio. And so I've listened to this album my whole life with not just respect, but also a sort of a sense of participation. I love it.
Chris, when you got back from space, you could have easily lay on a beach and had a margarita, and stared at the ocean, and no one would have ever given you a hard time for it. You deserve rest. Instead, you're going on the road. You're going on the road playing music. You're living out the life of a touring musician. Why?
I think there are so few people, especially Canadians, who have flown in space. Part of it is just that it is a wildly rare experience that I think has a worthwhile perspective. If you look at something under a microscope, you see it more differently. It's because it's sort of exaggerated and stretched. And my impression is that in order to be able to fly a rocket ship or command a spaceship, your life has to be kind of exaggerated and stretched. And maybe when you exaggerate and stretch it, you learn something you didn't learn any other way. And so I wrote the first book, Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, which is sort of a tongue-in-cheek title, but that's what I meant. If you exaggerate and stretch your life to be able to do something like that, then maybe there are some ideas in there that are useful to everybody. And so there's been a huge reaction, and a very positive one, And so I speak all around the world all the time. I mean, I teach at university and I work with a lot of elementary schools, and there's a lot of other projects going on. I'm just hosting a series on BBC right now and a National Geographic coming out. We have a YouTube series called Rare Earth. Lots of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the core of it is if you have had a magnificent or rare or noteworthy experience in your life, don't keep it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Share it with other people. And there has never been an easier time in history because of our level of technology to share the uniqueness of the human experience.
What's it like for you to relive that time in your life? On stage every night.
I don't think I'm reliving it. I'm just living it.
You know what I mean, though? You're going back to that time when you were on the International Space Station?
I'm not. I think it's the other way around. I think it's the perspective and hopefully the ideas that have come from having been able to do those type of things allows me to better appreciate and express what's important to me now.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
It's not.
Right?
It's not like I'm up there going, "Hey, 50 years ago I did an interesting thing." It's more like this sequence of ideas has led me to these thoughts now. And these perspectives, and so I really don't spend much time looking backwards. To me, how can you use what you've learned to this point to look around and look forwards? And that's why I'm doing this Canada 150 tour as well.
Well, let me ask the question based on that, because this is the Canada 150 tour. In many ways, Canada 150 has been a very complicated process for this country. It's a fractured idea, mainly because of Canada's relationship with Indigenous people who have lived here far longer than 150 years. So what do you want to add to the conversation?
Well, I mean, birthdays are arbitrary, and life didn't begin, on August 29th, 1959 when I was born, but I celebrate my birthday every year. And, of course, the land has been here since the Earth cooled. Life has been in Canada for 4 billion years. It seems like the first of us arrived here just at the end of the last ice age, maybe 18,000, an indescribably long amount of time, years ago. People have been coming in waves. This particular birthday is celebrating Confederation 150 years ago. That it doesn't belittle anything. To me, it's just a great moment to look around, see how we got to where we are, and then look forward. Okay, so we're imperfect. We've done some amazing stuff. We've done some very regrettable stuff, but that doesn't mean we quit or don't celebrate. I think instead you should say, out of all of this noise and stuff we've been doing, collectively, where should we head next?
Mm-hmm.
What are our priorities? This 150 years, it's just a date. It's a round number, but it's a great opportunity to then say, so people, where should we be going next? What ideas should we be pursuing? What's really important to us as a collected group of human beings here now?
Chris Hadfield, it's been a pleasure having you in today.
Nice to talk with you, Tom.
Next time you come in, we're going to sing some songs.
I would love to. Thanks.
Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, he goes on his Canada 150 tour this September. I felt weird calling you Chris Hadfield the whole time. I wanted to call you Commander Hadfield the whole time.
Whatever you like.
Well, I'm doing it on the end. That was Commander Chris Hadfield going on his Canada 150 tour this summer. Old BA Tom calling him Chris. You can find more details on cbc.ca/Q.